Truth bomb, everybody. The idea of an emotional trigger is a fairy tale that victimizes you. Hi, everybody. My name is Leah Benson, and I'm a licensed body-based psychotherapist, life coach, and psychedelic guide in Tampa Bay. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can stop being a victim of your own triggers and take control of your emotional life. And P.S. This can also keep you from being a victim of anyone else's bad behavior when they tell you it was triggered. It's confession time again. I've discovered that another one of my formerly favorite therapy concepts is a fairy tale. And I'm here to set the record straight. Turns out there's no such thing as an emotional trigger because nothing outside you can set off a reaction and a subsequent sequence of events in your body. That's just not how your brain works. I mean, in real life, it's hard not to say you feel triggered. I'll be honest, I still say it too sometimes because that's what it feels like. But it's important to understand that what's actually happening in your body and brain at that moment is not at all the cause-effect situation it seems to be. In fact, it's the complete opposite. And the reason you might want to care about that is that if you believe in a cause-effect brain, you are destined to be a victim of your own and other people's automatic choices forever. And if you're cool with that, just turn off this video right now because we're going to Truthville. Because knowing the truth makes your mental health simple and makes you emotionally powerful. So if you're interested, here we go. First off, the real way your brain works is that it generates the reality of your next moment inside your head before you ever arrive at that moment. Crazy, I know. What that means is that the idea of an emotional trigger is actually based on a completely false premise. And that false premise is the idea that we have a reactive emotional brain located in a mythical limbic system that we've been told is our mammalian or monkey brain. And we've also been told that by practicing something called self-regulation or self-control in emotional moments, we can control that inner beast with our rational brain, which is located in our prefrontal cortex, which is part of the more recently evolved neocortex, special to humans. Well, that's all outdated science fiction. Kind of like the idea that the sun goes around the earth. And even though it sure feels like that's what's happening, it's actually not. And we only know that because science tells us so. And we would never talk about the sun going around the earth with any seriousness, because I mean, who would really go around saying stuff like that at this point, right? So, in that spirit, here's what's really happening in your brain. First, the allegedly reactive emotional part of your brain is predictively generating a bunch of possible choices about what your next actions could be. And it's actually doing that 24/7, whether you feel emotional or not. But anyway, it's generating those choices based on your past experience, the context that you're in, and the energy status of your body at that very moment. And we're talking a bunch of possible choices, as in like millions of them, every single moment. Practically simultaneously, as it generates those possible choices of your next actions, the alleged home of rational control in your brain, which doesn't actually control anything, is optimizing and selecting, again based on past experience, the actions that it thinks are probably the best ones to use to meet your goals at that moment among all the choices that the other part of your brain generated. After that, in exactly the same way as it predicted and chose your next actions, the brain generates the things that you're going to see, hear, and feel around you in the next moment, as well as what you're going to consciously think, which might match up with what's actually out there and might not. I'm not kidding. That's actually how all this works. And that means, you see, that when you think you are triggered, you are not. Your brain has actually prepared the triggered emotion and behavior for the moment you're in before what you subsequently call the trigger ever goes off. And it's because of your past experience that your brain carries that trigger with you into every moment that you're in. Not because of some innate emotion circuit in your emotional brain that went off in response to something around you. And the actions, or reactions as they may feel like, that your brain chooses depend completely on their ability to help you achieve your goals. Goals for that moment or goals for your future. And I know that might seem like crazy talk based on how life actually feels on a day-to-day basis, but I assure you it's not. Remember, the sun doesn't go around the earth. We don't react. Our brains prepare us energetically for all the actions and thoughts we might have in the next moment, and prepares us to see what it expects us to see before we get there. And that process feels like it's just happening to us, even though that's not the way it is. And if you want to know more about the science of all that, check out the books 7.5 Lessons About the Brain or How Emotions Are Made by Lisa Feldman Barrett, because it's too complicated to get into for this video. But anyway, what's important for you to know, as you wonder why this even matters, is that the other way of understanding how life works is a fairy tale that leaves you a victim. And you are not a victim. You are in way more control over getting out from under mental struggles and other people's emotional manipulation than you've been led to believe. Because there's no such thing as a reactive brain or triggers. Which means you can build a superpower that gives you control over yourself and over how you deal with other people's emotional behavior. And the way you can do that is to give yourself experiences proactively that then serve as the past experience that your brain will use to make better choices in emotional moments. Because based on how brains actually work, remember, controlling yourself can only be a proactive process. It can only be something that you do before you arrive at emotional moments. It is not something you can do during emotional moments. Because remember, you're not actually controlling yourself at those moments in the way we've always been taught. What's actually happening during emotional moments is that your brain is choosing actions, as I said, that you learned about through past experiences. And that's what we're talking about here with the idea of proactive self-control. And here's how you can start doing this. Number one, by learning new ways to make sense of the sensations in your body and getting good at recategorizing them. And number two, by practicing new ways of building, holding, and expressing the energy in your body. Because once you've gotten good at these things, in the case of high energy situations, you're not going to be locked into the minimal choices of understanding your energy as enraged or anxious or unable to control myself. You can simply acknowledge that you have a lot of energy in your body at that moment, and you can decide to categorize it as energy instead of seeing it as rage, anxiety, or overwhelm. Unless, of course, it serves you to categorize it in that way at that moment. It's called deconstructing your emotions, and anyone can do it. I'm not saying it's easy to do this, but what I am, at least not at first, but what I am saying is that with practice, you can do it. Because over time, you can give your brain new experiences of high energy that you are in total control over. So that then, when you are in a seemingly out of control emotional situation, you actually do have past experience that gives your brain the capacity to categorize your high energy into something completely controllable. which is not self-control in the rational brain over emotional brain sense. It's that before you arrived to that moment, you consciously and consistently provided your brain with practice that gave you alternative options for understanding and making sense of the energy in your body when there's a lot of it. At a situation where you don't seemingly need a whole lot of it. Or you do and you don't want to act, out of control. And if you build that experience and knowledge purposefully, you will exist in the current moment and every moment going forward with the ability to manage the energy in your body and rational behavior choices already installed in your brain as options to guide your actions in the next moment. And the bonus is that when you know this to be true, you won't be able to be manipulated by other people telling you that you've triggered them. You'll know that they have the goal of influencing you, and you'll be able to engage with them more rationally. Pretty cool, huh? So if you're wondering what some of those practices might be to build these skills, well, there's a whole tradition of something called bioenergetic exercise that arose out of the body-based therapy called, one of the original body-based therapies, by the way, called bioenergetic analysis. And I happen to have created a program that will teach you a bunch of those exercises systematically and give you a whole range of skills to help you recategorize your understanding of and control over your energy that you don't have right now. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, you can find those exercises at thefeelgoodformula.com. Check it out if you want to practice and seed your brain with past experiences that allow you to self-regulate before you arrive in life situations where you have previously failed at controlling yourself. Because if you're interested in getting a handle on your emotional life, you need options. And the Feel Good Formula will give you options. It will give you the new material your brain needs in order to guide you to new actions and thoughts in all the future moments of your life. It will give you the superpower of self-control when you want it, rather than leaving you a victim to behavior choices that create more problems than solutions. And again, you'll find that doorway to the superpower at thefeelgoodformula.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.